a big handshake and they say, Keshav, past is past and this is a new beginning. So we are looking at a new beginning as we move forward. And we are going into Hue Hin with an agenda. And what we are going to look at Hue Hin, that tiger conservation landscapes should be fully resourced. That is number one point. We have to have this issue of infrastructure mainstreaming conservation. We have to have a biodiversity cess to include in infrastructure projects to mitigate the adverse impact that biodiversity may have. We must have a master plan for tiger conservation landscape that maps all the comprehensive issues that are taking place, where investments are taking place, where there are roads taking place, where there is mining going on, where there is land use planning undergoing a change. We have to have master planning. We have to have trans-boundary coordination. We have to have legal legislations and actions against illegal trade. And we, lastly, ought to have, after Copenhagen, the potential of REDD+ as it manifests itself in enhancing the resources and the carbon credits. So Hue Hin, we are looking forward to it. We took 6 themes to Kathmandu. Those 6 themes got matured, and now we are taking it to the ministerial committee there. I'm sure there will be more need for public opinion and for policy and for political will. But the last thing I like to talk about, I don't want to get into Vladivostok just now because it's far away. But the one issue, one big challenge which I was asked to talk about the challenges, is the expectations and our capacity to respond to it. I think GTI and our partners have been able to generate and fill a much needed gap of improving and enhancing quality of management, governance, new science, new practice, new ideas, new way of looking at things, innovative finance, smart infrastructure, so many issues. It's a game-changing, innovative platform, which was introduced in a world where conservationists were struggling with tiger conservation. This has now generated expectation of manifold, and we are just few of us here. So we have the full support of the WBI. We have the support of the Vice President here and the President of the World Bank. But it is a very big task to be able to make a difference and transformational difference in 13 tiger range countries. And I think we will have to sit down and reflect on it and continue to really make sure that in the front line, there is a change. There is a lot of change that has taken place at the global, regional, and national level. But at the front line, right out there where the poacher is, he should be really scared to enter the boundary of a habitat. That is extremely important. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for all your support.
Thank you very much, Keshav. Okay, so we have a little time for questions, answers. I would request, we have a mic. If you raise your hand, we can just take a bunch of questions and turn it back to the panel. Any questions? Stunned silence? Okay, go ahead.
Folks, I'll have to excuse my memory, poor as it is, but I seem to recall, probably through the BBC, watching a program about tiger conservation in one or two areas in, I think it was India, it could have been Nepal. But basically it was essentially the program was about the failure of these conservation areas to actually protect the tigers within them. And from my poor memory, I had the feeling that one of the problems was essentially corruption. That they thought that some of the people who were essentially monitoring and managing the preservation areas were in fact opening the front gates to anybody who came in with money late at night. I raise that not so much as that example in its own right, but if that is typical of what potentially could go on, how do you think you're going to be able to address this kind of issue? That it's not just governance, it's not just money, it's just not global tiger initiatives. If you don't have the right people on the ground, we're essentially throwing our money in the wind.
Okay, very good. Other comments or questions? John?
Yeah, I'll try to answer the question. I'm John Seidenseger from the Smithsonian. Indeed, India has lost tigers from two of their declared tiger reserves, Pana and Sariska, and their management by their own, the Tiger Authority in India's own management assessment, about half of the tiger reserves in India are managed very poorly. Okay, but what India has done, which I think is essential component, is when the tigers disappeared from Sariska and Pana, the monitoring system in place was what we call expert-based. How many tigers are there? Well, there's 25. Well, in fact, there weren't any. And India has, to their great credit, has countrywide, over an area of about 300,000 square kilometers, initiated a science-based monitoring system. And they've also, in the core areas, they've also initiated so we can actually tell how many tigers. You can actually determine not only where tigers live, but how many tigers there are. It's a very difficult thing to do. We're talking about, in India alone, we're talking about like 40,000 beats that are individual pixels that have to be monitored. Now that's an incredible. I think an incredible sort of effort on behalf of wild tigers. Additionally, when they lost the tigers in India, that was a big wake-up call. And at first there was sort of you go through the whole steps, it was denial. And now they're sort of embraced moving forward in improving tiger management. So I'm actually quite encouraged about India and where they are. But the big thing that I keep seeing happening is we're way behind. One of the big theme papers that Juan Cotero and his group put together for Kathmandu was about how to think about infrastructure, investments in infrastructure, and doing it in ways that, in fact, in getting into the design phase way early with what tigers need, as opposed to having to deal with the project by project, tiger reserve by tiger reserve problem. And I think that what people came away from Kathmandu was that yes, we do have to get there. We'll never win project by project. You'll have to get in much earlier in the project stream if you're going to do anything. But just to go back to the monitoring, science-based monitoring is now possible over the entire range of the tiger. One of the things that we see is because we do have that capability. For example, you might have just heard in Russia that we have a trend, scientifically based trend count, and tiger numbers have gone down. And so we know that we have to do something right away. So we have an early warning system that's also in place. I think this injecting a science-based monitoring system into the management of tigers probably has been one of the key things that we can count on going forward for saving tigers.
Sure. I'll come back to the panel, Mahindra. Let me just collect a set of questions, otherwise we'll run out of time. And then I'll come to everyone in the panel.
Thank you very much. My name is Mohammed Bakar. I'm with the GEF. Great set of points made by the panelists. My question more has to do with balancing the existing efforts to safeguard the habitats or the megaland